Okay, Mark. We are here for Curious Intentions with Mark and Carol today. Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing well.
Okay, good. So I had a bit of a situation this week, and I was asking you if we could get curious about it, which is an article that I wrote was published. I think it was 2 days ago by Obesity Help. I'm a regular contributing author, and I sent you the link to the article. Have you had a chance to read it yet?
Partially, not the whole thing.
Okay,
I just
so
scanned it.
got it. Okay, so I have to tell you, this is the first time I've had such a I guess a response that was really different than I'm used to. I'm used to kind of like, oh, that's such a nice article. And this time it was like, what? You know, like I felt pushback. And I mean, it was from, maybe 5 people. However, that was a new experience for me. In the 2 years that I have been doing this kind of very public thing, that was the biggest reaction I've gotten so far. And so I wanted maybe you to coach me through, and or we could get curious about, however this looks, this process of having some negative response. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of don't know where to go with this. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, when did you write the article?
During I wrote it during the time I was dying, so I finished it after I found out I wasn't dying, but I had really written it all during that time that I didn't know I was dying. So my brain was a little bit, well, I don't know. I mean, it was just unfiltered. I think unfiltered would be a really good way to say it.
And so what's your question?
Well, I guess the thing that's popping in my mind is negative press bad press?
Is that the question, or
That
that's
is,
just kind of what you're considering?
I'm considering.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting curious. I'm kind of getting curious about the whole thing because I really, my initial response was, and then I was in a long work day, so I didn't have a chance to process it. And really, it's been kind of go, go, go since then. And I couldn't think of any way better to process it than with somebody else who could give me, well, you. I wanted you to give me this some sort of coaching and or just in helping me to process through having negative responses to the work that we do for healing, that we consider healing.
Yeah, there's so many questions within that question.
I know.
I think to start off, if people are going to be listening to this, they might not see the article or whatever the case is. So you want to give like a snapshot of what you described in your article?
Well, I can share it.
Sure, but I'm just going back and forth right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, the article is called Narcissistic Personality Disorder and its Correlation to Toxic Shame and Compulsive Eating.
You didn't stop at all. You just went for the big guns on that one. That title is very, very
controversial.
Yes.
And that's the first thing, one of the first things that I say in this article is, I know this is a hot topic. I really do know this. I see just narcissistic personality disorder alone, you bring that up and people, they seem to have polarized views about that. And mostly it's negative. And mostly it's a pointing fingers that I have seen, at least because I do a lot of couples work. The first thing I see is couples come in and go, he's a narcissist. And I go, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then there's the toxic shame part. And then, I was a compulsive eater and I lost 120 pounds. So there's that part. And actually, I was requested to do this exact subject by Obesity Help. So it started off, they said, we see your stuff online. Could you do this article? So I said, sure, this is my wheelhouse. I absolutely would love it. I mean, I wrote it in 30 minutes. It was easy peasy.
So what's the question?
I don't know if there's a question here. I mean,
Oh,
I just need help here.
So here's what I'm hearing is that before you even wrote the article, you knew it was going to be a little controversial.
Yes, I did.
So you wrote it and you got what you wanted.
Yeah, I guess.
And then when you got what you wanted, you didn't like what you got.
Yes. Oh my God. See, this is why I love you, Mark. Yes, I think that is true. Because I did know. That's why I put it. That's why I put it in the article. That is. I said I know this is a hot topic. I had been talking about it online already, but I hadn't talked about it in specific to this particular place, which is the obesity venue.
Well, and I'm not really going to hone in on that, the specifics of it all. More right. So you knew that you were going to write something that's controversial, and you got feedback to something that maybe was in disagreement with what you were writing.
Yeah, that's a
okay.
Kind of a, for sure. Yeah, that was pretty clear comments. Yes.
Yes. And so I'm not sure what you're resisting the negative comments when you knew that that's what the path you were going down. I mean, you could have written an article about sunshine and rainbows and lollipops and all the other kind of the pleasantries, but instead you chose to hit a hard hit. You chose to write a hard-hitting article, yes, knowing that would happen, and then pretending like it wouldn't get the ramifications that you had.
Okay, I was septic in my brain at the time, so I'm not sure how much I knew. I mean, to some degree, there was unfiltered, like really, really unfiltered at that point. Yeah. So I would say, in my defense, if there needs to be one.
No, there doesn't need to be one.
Right, and there doesn't. The unfiltered part of me, I'm actually kind of proud of, because it's really getting my voice out there the way that I wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Necessarily without being septic. So I look back, I actually just found, because if you look over here, I've got a bunch of files that I'm working on. I'm going through all my files, and one of the things I found was a statement I made to myself about my goal in life and where I wasn't living up to that. And it was exactly to the T, I found it this morning, of the calling in my life to be authentic and to speak up and to make the difference that I want to make. And it's a new difference, and I'm kind of proud of that subject, I guess.
When you read the feedback, was the feedback from their perspective, could you take that in, or was it way off the mark?
No, I think their perception is reality.
You think?
Well, yes, perception is reality. And so in my mind, I felt like their perception is reality, and I thanked them for their feedback. Some of them took that as condescending, but I meant it as.
Do you mind sharing what some of the feedback was? Not obviously the people, of course, but what some of the feedback was.
One said,
what was your, just to clarify once more, you're tying a correlation between narcissism and
Toxic shame and compulsive eating.
Toxic shame and compulsive eating. Okay.
Okay, and I feel like we could fill in the blank with compulsive eating or alcoholism and or whatever.
Yeah, compulsivity in general.
Yeah.
Whatever you happen to fill it with.
Yeah, it's really narcissism and toxic shame, and how you manifest, those things in your life. I would say self-medication to some degree. One of them says, I honestly am not sure if this is ill-intended or just badly written, but it's rife with victim blaming and insults to those struggling with, and those married, partnered with, and those that are struggling. I hear that. Badly written, I'm not sure what that means. I don't know if they're saying I don't know how to write or if I don't know what I'm talking about.
Or if you just didn't prove your point in a way that was going to be easily understood by them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. All the above. Yeah. I mean, because once I got through my initial, like, I'm a people pleaser and I'm not pleasing everybody. That's how I kind of recognized that was in me, that I need to get over that. Because I will never please everybody. I will never, ever please everybody. But there's still this big old people pleaser in me that just, what? I can't please everybody?
So what was it? What else was there in the feedback?
Nope. I hope nobody in the midst of a bad relationship or crisis reads this.
Now I'm curious to read the full article.
So you can judge me. Yes.
No, not judge you. Evaluate the content of what you wrote and who might be reading it and what thoughts they might have. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, for sure. That's why I sent it to you. This is the most ignorant, arrogant, hurtful thing I've ever read here, and I'm 10 years out since losing weight. Someone in the organization needs to review this, every single word of it, and then take it down. I'm stunned it was actually published. Now, that one is kind of interesting to me because they requested the article. They vetted the article. They edited the article. They published the article. It went through their whole organization. I mean, it was clearly...
Yeah.
Yeah, if somebody reviewed it, yeah, they all reviewed it because it's one of those publishing process they request the subject, they bring it in, somebody reads it, somebody edits it, somebody puts pictures and changes it, and
yeah. You just were asked to submit something doesn't mean they had to put it up.
Oh gosh, no. I mean, just because they asked me for that subject matter, they must know that I know that they watch my stuff, so they know the kind of stuff that I say. So
it sounds like they're open. You unintentionally opened up some wounds for people.
Yes.
And perhaps because when people often read, my experience is they don't often want to read and then think through what they read. They just want to be given exactly as it is. And you didn't necessarily give it exactly as it is, and they might have to think through that and say, how does this apply to me? And they might not get it right in the beginning, whatever the content happens to be.
Yeah. And as you say that...
I mean, have you not had experiences? I know I have, where I'll be texting someone or emailing somebody, and then I will put my own negative spin on it, and I'll read into it when it's not even there. I'm not saying that they did this or they didn't do this, but sometimes, we can read into things because of where we are emotionally and mentally, wherever we happen to be. And we can read into things being extra negative or extra, like they're attacking us when they could just be giving their viewpoint. So it really depends on where the readers are coming from too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The feedback is always, on both sides, how the person takes it, how the person gives it, and what that person is going through. I mean, there's so many ways that you can look at it when it comes to feedback.
And let's be clear about something too, that if anybody's going to be watching this, I don't remember because it's been a while, but when we're talking about narcissistic personality, it's a small sliver of the population. We're not talking about a large population of this. I don't know. I think it's like 5 to 7%, where no, that's probably even high, maybe 3 to 5% that would show up with the narcissistic personality. The problem is that people who come along and they think that, oh yeah, they know what narcissistic, so someone shows a little bit of, I don't know, selfishness perhaps, and they automatically say, well, he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist without
it's pretty flippant.
Yeah, it's pretty flippant.
It is. That's part of why I brought this subject up. It's many people could be considered entitled or selfish and not necessarily meet any of the criteria for personality disorder. I mean, that's a whole other thing. We know that. But most people throw that out, not knowing, kind of like I get people all the time, my child is bipolar, and they're not. But It's just one of those things that they hear about, and they just kind of tell themselves a story, and then they find themselves the clues like we talk about, and then thus that person, they meet that thing. And so you're right, it is very small part of the population. And there is one thing that has crossed my mind, and I don't know if this resonates with you, but to some degree, the people in the United States have some entitlement. You know, we in the United States itself have more resources and things available to us, and we've become used to having those things available to us. Sure. And when those things are taken away, we don't like it. And it could be viewed as selfish or entitled, or I don't know. I think even America is viewed as, to some degree, this narcissistic.
Entitled? Well, it doesn't help that we have a narcissistic president.
I'm not going there.
Well, I did. I don't have any shame about that. When you look at his, and I'm not just talking about the politics because that's not the place. But when you look at his actions, never taking responsibility for anything, everything's always everything's always great, good, and all this other kind of stuff. And just even the turmoil that happens in the office with all of his firings and letting goes and, all of this stuff. Yeah. So it doesn't help when we have this kind of confusion, even from way up high.
Well, but what does that say about a country that voted him in then?
I don't think people had a clue. They saw, in my opinion, they saw somebody who was not a politician, who was not afraid to speak like you and I are talking. Not a lot of this like political jargon and just making sure you're not offending. He doesn't seem to care to not offend people. And I think so many times in the past, people were so frustrated because they didn't really know what the real truth was. And someone's finally willing to speak the truth, according to him, with being unfiltered and everything. And people can kind of respect that.
They respect the real. I get that. That's why my videos have been popular. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to gain a little ground with this too. I mean, because you and I are real.
You know that wherever Trump stands, you pretty much know.
It's true, and it's true, and well, I'm not going to bring up this other subject. It's kind of going to go off base, but I'm seeing where he positively is helping the country in ways that I didn't even realize until this week. So being somebody right down the middle, I'm just, independent. I guess I don't want to take sides because I really don't.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm not. Right. I'm talking about people because that's a figure that we can all look to.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether it's whoever it is. It doesn't matter. It's just like
he's I'm not representative of our.
I'm not putting politics in it at all. I'm just saying that's an easy symbol, if you will, to look at.
Because he's representative of us.
Yeah.
Of the United States to the world.
Yes. So one thing I want to kind of piggyback on is you were talking about your article. And I was coming from the standpoint of, depending on who your audience is, it may not have been understood by all, perhaps. So as a writer, I'm not one, but as a writer, one needs to be focused on who the audience is or who their target audience is, and see if they're able to understand and digest exactly what you're trying to say. Because if they can't, the majority of the audience, then you might want to write to a different audience. So for example, the thing that you'll remember is when we did our work together, one thing I was sharing with you when you got stuck was that you were being selfish.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But let's look at that. Let's look at that though.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying Carol was being focused on herself and she doesn't care about other people. I was just talking about in that moment, your way of being was withholding from the brilliance that you could put out in the world, and that act was selfish.
Yes.
So when I told you that, I knew very well that there was a big risk for me telling you that.
Yes.
Because if I tell you that, you happen to take it in and could see, oh my gosh, not everybody would see that. If I called somebody else selfish in the wrong context at the wrong time, and they weren't prepared for that, wow, I would lose a client, or we'd have words or whatever it happens to be. So you were ready for that, I don't know, shift or intervention or whatever at that time in your life. But prior to transformation work, prior to other stuff, you might not have been able to hear it.
Oh no, that would have hit as criticism, and I would have wanted to suck my thumb and go in the corner somewhere, and or attack.
Okay, so here what you just said. Do you recall what you just said?
Yes, I would have wanted to suck my thumb or be attacking. Either one, I would have had
or criticizing.
Yes, I would have taken it as criticism instead of feedback or data.
So how do you imagine that the other people that are receiving your information may not have reacted in the same way, just from a different place? I didn't say that very well. But in other words, if you hadn't gone through the experience, the same words, the same content I would have shared with you would have made you go into the back corner, suck your thumb, be criticizing, and want to attack back. Right?
Yeah.
If it wasn't at the right time, if it wasn't at the place where you could hear it.
Right.
So let's just imagine, one possibility could be that when you wrote this article, there were some people, perhaps, I don't know, but maybe we're not at the level where they could hear what you were trying to share with them.
No, I think
and so maybe then they attacked, they go in the back and suck their thumb or whatever, and were very critical because they might not be able to see it quite yet. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, and maybe it's just not their reality. Period.
It very much.
And it doesn't necessarily have to ever be their reality. I'm when I was asked to write this article with this particular subject matter, I knew I was going to take the hits. I knew that, to some degree. I asked, one of the things I asked the person that requested it of me was, is this too scholarly of an article? Is this too controversial of an article? Because, I could understand that. And the reaction I got was, no, we really, really like it. Like really. So that, I guess the organization in total must have been ready to also want to see healing in this area too.
Yes. And depending on where you come from, it could really, like if you don't write an article that you don't get sub-negative feedback, there might be something not okay with that.
Right. And I processed through that as well. I mean, I want to hit new, I want to get into some new places, new subject matter. I'm just so kind of tired of the same old. And I feel like I've been exploring those areas in my own life, I mean, these people don't know that I have walked through their shoes. They don't know that I've come through the trauma that I've gone through. They don't need to know. I don't need to explain. I never explained it or defended to any of them.
Right.
Because their experience is valid. And that's all I wanted to say, is their experience is valid. And the fact that anybody feels hurt by something I say breaks my heart. But they don't know that about me. They don't know who I am. They don't actually need to know who I am. Maybe that will get them thinking, maybe it won't. It's okay either way.
Right.
And it tends to be the people that have the bigger points of view, I think, that do respond in these ways. Whether it's very positive or very negative, I think those people tend to come out of the woodwork when it comes to reviewing things. I don't often hear,
You know what the good thing is? You know what the good thing is?
What's a good thing?
That at bare minimum, you cause them to think.
Right. Well, I guess that was the point.
Yeah. Well, and if that, you know what, I've read some stuff time to time, and like that's just bunk. That's just whatever.
Right.
Because I wasn't there yet, and then I come back, I don't know, years later, I'm like, oh, that's what that meant.
Right. And really, that's how I've grown, and that's probably how you've grown. When I become very resistant when people come to me with ideas that I'm not ready for. I mean, I always say that if I'm in the couch instead of the chair, however that looks, coaching and or whatever I'm doing, if I'm on that couch and I'm the one receiving, that resistance is in me. It's not like I walk around embracing every comment that somebody says. It takes me time to process, and sometimes that processing is years, sometimes it's minutes, sometimes it's days, sometimes it's during the session. Everyone is in different phases, and everyone is supposed to be in different phases. That's why we notice, that's why we do curious intentions, isn't it?
But I think that even that could expand even farther. Like everybody's a different spot. And I'm very sensitive to the same thing you are, in that it could be a fabulous idea. You've presented some ideas to me. I've had other people present ideas to me, and they're great ideas. And yet at the time, it might not be an idea that I can sink my teeth into. It might be an idea that I'm not ready for. It might be an idea that's great. I just can't really attend to it and figure out if it's going to work with me. A lot of different things.
Right. Well, it's true. I mean, we're ready when we're ready. And, the readiness of somebody to be able to shift in their life is their own choice. And it's based upon, wherever they're at the time. I mean, I know when people come to me and they're in a place of a lot of pain, that's a great motivator. That's when I see big shifts happen very quickly. As the pain starts to subside, I see them kind of want to go back to status quo.
Yeah, mediocrity. Because most of the time, we either are motivated to seek pleasure or to move away from pain.
True.
Those are two biggest motivators, period.
Right. So in this regard, I guess, I know my heart behind this article was to see healing. Because I know that when I was pointing fingers at the people in my life, whether or not they were my kids, my relationships of friends, mates, whatever, that as long as I was pointing fingers and proving I was right, I was actually not working toward the goal of working on that relationship for it to have success. That my energy wasn't put to that, it was put to being right. And so I have learned.
I'm going to try to look it up real quick. Keep talking. I'm going to try to look it up real quick.
I have learned in my life that this need to be right is part of what has gotten me stuck in relationships. And when I have come to a place of forgiveness, which sometimes takes years and years and years and years and years, but when I come to it, I feel freedom. Even if I stay with the person, don't stay with the person, that's not the point. I tell my couples all the time, you know, whether you stay or don't stay, you deserve a good life. And that's possible. But pointing a finger is not going to get you there.
Right. It just helps us to stay in our own zone.
Right. So that's what this article is about, was staying in our own lane. This is Recovery 101. You know, that I stay in my lane, that I don't look at your dirty street, but I just do what I can do, because I can't control people, places, and things, but I can control my own response. That's all I can do. Maybe if I'm lucky.
Yeah. So maybe you wrote an article for some that were ready to hear it. You know, for whatever reason, spirituality is coming up in the Bible, where it says, you know, sometimes the seed will fall on the fertile ground, sometimes it will fall on the rocky ground, and sometimes, you know, all that stuff. So you're not going to catch them all.
No.
And that's the big risk, honestly, is because you want to help them all if you can, but they're not going to see it that way.
You're right. You're right. I mean,
let me just ask, from your heart, what were you trying to communicate?
Hope.
It's interesting because it sounds like, for a couple of the people that gave you feedback, it was the opposite of what you intended.
Yeah, and
what's coming up for you right now?
It made me sad that they didn't feel the hope. They didn't hear that. And that is my main goal in life, is to help people to see there's hope in every situation, even if it is to leave that person. So you don't choose another person like that. The whole point is the hope. And I'm never going to be able to always give. They have to be ready for it. And I can't please people. And I don't like that. I mean, I can't please everybody.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I really don't like that.
Well, that's the way of it.
I don't like it. Okay. I just don't like it. And that is the person in me that grew up with all the trauma, that has picked people like this in my life, that has had to let go of that and recognize my own value, and know that even if I'm alone for the rest of my life, that would be better than being in abusive situations.
Yeah. What's your favorite dessert?
That's a tough one, because I don't do much sugar.
Your favorite food?
My favorite food is, somebody was just asking me that. I would say eggs and fish, but fish for the most part. If I could have fish all the time and could afford it all the time, I'd have fish. Really fresh, very clean fish. So
if you made me that meal and I came over to your house and you're like, Mark, I made you this favorite meal, I just don't want you, whatever. And I'm like, Carol, I don't know how to tell you this, I thought you knew that I don't eat meat.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So your offering is the fish, right?
Yeah.
Because you like it and you want me to like it, and you want me to enjoy it too.
Yeah.
But if fish isn't my cup of tea, it's not my cup of tea.
True. Absolutely. Right? And normally I would ask ahead of time, but you're right.
Because everybody has different preferences.
Of course. Subjective. Right? Yeah.
And you cannot, well, you can. It's unreasonable to assume that you can meet everybody where they are, especially in an article. Now, if you had every single one of those people come in and you handed out the article and you had a discussion about it, you might be able to share with those people who didn't have a very positive view your come from. And then that might have helped them. But they all have their preferences, and they're all at different places in their lives. Right. And in the end, I really felt like all I could say is I hear you. And I'm sorry that some people found that condescending.
there's no tone.
Which part did they find condescending?
My reactions, I commented to
Oh, yes.
to them.
So,
I didn't explain or defend. I said, I hear your pain. And I did get some reactions to those things too. And again, I can't.
well, maybe. Okay. How did you write it that was condescending in their opinion?
Um,
And I'll just let you know if I would have experienced, if I could potentially experience it as condescending.
Hold on here. There was my remark. I am sorry you feel this way. I know this is a difficult subject to discuss. It really is a very touchy, controversial subject. I hear your response and will consider all feedback. Thank you for sharing.
I can see where it come from on that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can too, because there's no tone with that. There's no.
Yeah, it sounds a little patronizing.
Yeah, and it's of course not meant to be.
Tone would change the context for sure, but you don't have that liberty.
I don't.
On that venue.
No, I don't. And any explanation or defense felt wrong to me. To minimize anything of their experience with whatever reaction they had would have been wrong as well. For me.
Mm-hmm. Can you see where they're coming from?
Oh yeah. No, as I read this back now, I can see it. The thing is, I think in some ways there was nothing I could say. And then there's crickets. And so that could have been also my response. Sometimes, at least I see this in relationships, sometimes you just, no matter what the response is, there's not any perfect response.
Sure.
I feel like I hear you if I say it in person and they see my face and my reaction and that I'm genuine with that, then I get somewhere. It works in the office all day long with all the couples that are absolutely bound and determined not to want to be in this process in therapy. So they see my face. They see that I'm real, and I almost always get the, oh, she really does. That feels good. But in that response, on paper or text or however that, we have this distance. That distance doesn't lend itself to them knowing me.
Right.
And that's really, like, again, I don't need to defend that. My voice is my voice.
Yeah. And when you continue to do the work that you do, no matter if it's amazing work, you always have people that disagree with some aspect of it. And it's kind of like we talked about a long time ago, Brene Brown won't take any, criticism from people that are not in the arena.
Right. For sure. I mean, I always think.
That took courage. That took cojones. It took huevos. It took whatever you want to call it. It took a lot of courage to do that. And did you hit the mark? Maybe not necessarily, but then again, you totally hit the mark because you knew what you wanted to create. You created a little bit of, and that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of came to this place of, okay, in some arenas, I have like a personality status, however you want to say that. People know my books and things like that, want to hear from me. So in a way, I kind of felt like infamous. I don't really know quite what that word means, but that was the word that resonated with me. And I thought, I'm
going to cut you off here for a second. How many negative quote unquote responses did you get?
I think like 5
or
7, something like that.
So, and what's your come from though? Is your come from like, what's your purpose in general?
What do you mean?
Well, if you come from a place of, well, I'm just going to write this and they can like it or not. or if you're wanting people to have hope, that's a different come from.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wanting to have hope, and if you really wanted to stretch yourself to really get a sense of where they're coming from, you might offer just to speak with them directly if there's only 5, and really truly see where
Mm-hmm.
they're coming from and where it landed for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? Those are your people that were willing to say, hey, this sucks. And they could point you in a direction where those few outliers could more easily be heard in the future if you took the time to listen to what it is they really wanted to say. Because reading is hard. You don't know, are they joking? Are they tone? Yeah, it's so hard to tell.
Yeah, and I've done precisely what you have suggested many times with other people in other venues where they've kind of made comments throughout my public time, offered to have conversations, offered to have a side conversation, and the response I generally get is like they have so far perceived that as, so you want to explain and defend your idea. And I just don't get the resonation of being willing to dialogue. I could probably do that with every person, every critic along the way. And sometimes maybe they would do it and sometimes they wouldn't. But if I put all my energy to that, after a while.
But you're not, but that's a depends on how you would position it.
What do you mean?
Well, if you would respond and say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you about that. Again, they don't hear your tone. They don't hear your genuineness that you really want to have a conversation with them. They don't get where you're coming from. They might hear it as, oh, she just wants to prove her point because she's a author guru, whatever. But rather, if you would come from a place like, look, something to the effect of, my gosh, it was not my intention. My intention was to provide hope, and it seems like I've missed the mark. I would love to hear your story more about how I could have articulated, or what really rubbed you the wrong way. Was it, just because I really want to serve more, I want to be a benefit. I can't even come up with the words right now because I'm trying off the top of my head. But something like, you just really want to see where they're coming from, because your intention is not to make things difficult. It's to make things easier for people.
Yeah, everything I write is for healing, period. Hands down. That's what I write for. The thought that comes to my mind is,
here's the caveat though. Here's something that I would bring up. I don't know if you have, but like, healing sounds so nice and lovely when I hear it. Going through the process, I know it's a whole different story. It's painful. It's excruciating. Yes. It's not fun.
No,
right?
Transforming is a painful thing.
So from a different vantage point, maybe you just shed some light on an area that they're beginning their healing process, and you're just the scapegoat.
Yeah.
For which they can start the process.
Maybe. But the other thing
you don't know what conversations are starting. Like, I can't believe I was about ready to, I keep forgetting we're recorded because I have to watch my mouth, but I can't believe I was reading this article the other day. This crazy woman with red hair, she's blah, 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 blah. You won't even understand what happened. And then maybe someone's like, well, let me read it. Hey, I think what she's really trying to say is this. Oh my gosh. Like, oh, I feel silly. Like, so it could just start a conversation.
Yeah, which is, of course, that would be the goal, is to start the conversation. I want this not to be about me. And so a part of me, this is what I do in the past when I've had these kind of things, I find the way to not publicly have that conversation, but I contact the person directly and ask if they would like, I'm open for a conversation. Are they willing? Because I don't want to make this publicly like, oh, Carol is like, trying to look good or whatever.
Yeah, no, you
And
got to be careful about that too.
yeah, I mean,
There's only so much time, and the only reason I said that was because there was 5. That's it. And and
yeah,
and and if nothing else,
yeah,
to hear them,
yeah.
because
No.
maybe they have a point you have not considered.
Oh, I'm sure they
Maybe.
do. I mean, I'm sure they do. To their perception, there's always something we can learn, from feedback. That's why we do this. I
Yeah,
learn something every time we talk and get curious about things.
me too.
I know.
Me too.
So I would say it's always an opportunity. Conversations are always a wonderful opportunity.
And even that,
And
Carol, even that is not easily acceptable to other people.
no, I told you, I've offered this to other people along the way that have said nope. I've offered to do it in public. For people that were local. I never get takers, but I'm always happy to do that. I even when people call my business and say, well, yeah, I mean, there's just always naysayers along the way if you are making an impact or having an authentic voice that's different.
Right.
I'm not. That is going to be part of what's going on.
And thank God, because we need variety in our lives, right?
I think we need new. I really do think we need new, and I do think that that is part of my calling in life, is to help different conversations. Like Brene Brown talks about this stuff, and I know I show it in my videos what I've learned through her, which is to be transparent and to give the critics a place to sit in the arena, but just to let them know that I don't actually take their them in everything they say into account unless they're actually walking through what I'm walking through. Because being in the arena, that is a thing that unless you have the guts to do it, it's really easy to throw darts from the side, but until you've walked in that courageous place.
Well, another thing that we could do is I'd be open to it if they were open to, I doubt they will be, but if they're open to joining on a Zoom call, just their voice, we could
Ooh,
help.
I would love that. Wouldn't that be cool?
It'd be cool because we'd explore what was causing their discomfort.
Oh, I love that, Mark. I love that. So how about I give them, a couple of opportunities with that
Yeah.
conversation, and/or
Might
that
not
would
get
be
it
kind of cool.
a thing. Yeah, it'd be very cool. Be very cool.
So I'd like to post this on their website so that they can see. There's different ways of looking at it too, and maybe they'll get something from this, or maybe they won't. That's fine too. But it's at least they can see my heart, and at least you have helped me to learn something through this, through your wonderful coaching, and um, it is what it is. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do just what you suggested. I'm going to offer them a conversation and offer them an opportunity to have a forum, and we could have a conversation. That'd be a 3-way.
Or maybe anybody that, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's the best thing to have just the people that kind of poo-poo your idea, the article, but
Yeah.
perhaps
So
it's
like,
just anybody that wants to respond or have some kind of dialogue around the content of your article.
right. Well, it's not like there was nothing positive said. So I could reach out to, I think there was one person that said something positive right off the bat. So
Yeah. But you just want to be clear.
it's
You just want
only
to be
a
clear
couple.
about how much time you're allotting and things like that, because otherwise, sometimes people are not truly interested in finding out. They're more interested in preserving their own perspective of how they see the world.
Yeah.
And that was said very well.
Well,
That's
yes.
true, though. A lot of people,
Yeah.
including myself, I'm not immune to it. All I want to do is protect my own perspectives, how I see the world.
Well, I'm right about everything. So
I know you are. I know you are.
All right.
As long as I have that perception, then we're fine.
Right. So we kind of ran a little bit long, but I thank you for allowing this conversation. It's only a couple days out of the publishing process, and so I'm curious to see how this goes along. I'm going to be writing more controversial articles. I'm going to be speaking about more controversial things. It's going to get deeper and deeper.
You might want to have a caveat.
And what it is?
I don't know what your caveat might be, but it might be something like my writing goes into conversations with the assumption that ... Like for example,
warning.
Yeah, well, no, true, right? Like for
yes,
example,
of course, that's fine.
if you have somebody who's reading your article that maybe it's not a fault or whatever, but maybe they're someone who has a PhD in psychology would see your article different than somebody who is in junior high or wherever. They'll just see it differently because of how they're engaging with the content.
Yes.
Does that make sense? So you might want to say a caveat. I'm like, who is this audio? Who is it for? And if they do get a little bit upset, if that's not your intention, and maybe that's just a time for them to look a little deeper. Or not.
I'll have to process through all of that, because at some point I can't control people, places, and things. I'm going to come back to that again and again and again. And I'm never going to please everybody. And am I supposed to? Or am I supposed to just speak my authentic voice in the way that I've learned I'm supposed to do for myself, and just trust that that voice is going to hit some people the wrong way and some people the right way. And that I have no control over that.
Yeah.
And anyway, we better wrap up, I think. I really appreciate this conversation. I feel like I've got a very good grasp of this, and I feel like I'm going to be processing more.
Great.
So thank you so much. And I'll post this up and see, we are getting views. I mean, I haven't really had a chance to tell you. I've seen some of our videos have gotten 100 and some views already.
Oh, cool.
And so, that's all happening little by little. Ideally, it would be to have this live so we could have some interaction. And I don't think Facebook Live is very, it seems to be very glitchy. So I haven't, the technology between the phone to phone, I find problems with it when it's the interview, not when I'm doing my live so much as the minute I bring in another person. That we're never sure. It seems like it's going well, and you're never sure how that's going. So as I get better at that, I would love, ideally, to be able to do more lives, and maybe through YouTube we can do lives.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, I would love that.
Well, thank you. Next time, same time, same place.
Yes, sir.
Right.
I love it. I really look forward to this. This is so much fun, Mark.
It is fun. It is fun. Next time I'll be on the hot seat.
Oh, really? Okay, good. Okay, well then let's do that. Let's just plan. You're going to be on the hot seat.
Okay, we don't know what that's going to mean, but we'll just play with it.
We don't know how that's going to work.
No, you know what? And like they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, which there's a rule 62. Don't take yourself so damn seriously.
I have not heard that one. I've heard a lot of rules. I haven't heard that one. I mean, 37 years in recovery. You'd think I'd know that one.
Surprise. Rule 62. Rule 62.
Don't take yourself so darn seriously.
Damn seriously.
Okay, well, I'm working on watching my mouth.
No, because that's part of it, right? Don't take yourself so darn serious. Don't take yourself so damn serious. There's a difference in how you say it. Don't take yourself so damn serious, Carol. Knock it off.
Okay, I'll work on that. I'll work on that. I don't think I do all the time, but I definitely.
No, it wasn't towards you.
I definitely do. No, we all do. We all do. I do. Yeah, we all do. This is humanity. That's why I'm doing healing for humanity.
So the next time you write an article, know that there will be controversial feedback.
Just decide it and go with that.
Don't take yourself so damn seriously, because it's really not that important. And yet it totally is.
Yes. Yes, sir. I got it.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
All right.
Okay. Bye.